Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bladecifer here, and today I for you guys another video of Black Clover Mobile here. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about the 3 dangerous guild bosses that just released today here. Did want to do this earlier this morning, as well as the other new game mode, but your man had to go to work, so it had to wait till later on in the afternoon. Told a lot of you guys about this inside the Discord. Y'all understood, of course, so we're doing it right now. And I'm going to try and give you guys the best tips and tricks to pretty much beat these guys. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, these 3 bosses are fairly interesting, to say the least here. We're actually taking some of them out with my guilds here, and I'm trying to get them to learn how to actually beat it on Nightmare a little bit more here. But I'm going to be showcasing how to beat these guys on Nightmare for you guys and actually showcase what you all have to do. Now, thankfully here, I played a lot of JP myself, and so I do know some things, of course, myself, but I wanted to make sure we got a veteran as well with us, in which I ended up asking my friend Ali to actually provide me some clips as well to show you guys exactly what you guys should be using here, the reasons why for these units themselves here that you're going to be using, and how to actually take down Nightmare itself. So Ali ended up providing me with 3 different clips of 3 of different little bosses here on Nightmare, of what units you will end up using here, as well how you can auto these guys and or beat them. So of course, shout out to the man Ali. Of course, if he does comment on the video, give him some love. And of course, if you're inside of the Discord, you can add him there and tell him thank you as well. The man would definitely appreciate it, because this guy immediately came in clutch. But going ahead and taking a look at this here, we're going to be checking out the first fire golem here, in which, if you guys don't know exactly the reasoning why you actually want to go ahead and beat these dudes, is because if you beat these, eventually there will be a shop inside of here that will give you some nice goodies here that actually are exchanged from these coins immediately. And also, by beating these dudes, you actually can get some of the reroll little stats and things of that sort here that you guys may very well want. So I'm gonna give you guys the best tips that you can get. But taking a look at the fire one first here, you guys should see a little bit of a clip pop up on my screen here. As you can tell by the team here, you're going to be wanting to use Julius. I already know some people are going to be like, why is she here? Nebra, Lotus, and Mars here. Now, the main reasoning for this, of course, if I go ahead and go back to my screen here, we go ahead and take a look at some of this. We already know what Julius does here. Absolutely amazing. Getting you up to that plate, taking down the mobility as well here while doing some nice burst DPS. We know what Mars does with at least his tanking here, as well as some stuns. And of course, we know what Lotus does. Now, the reason that we have Nebra here, in which I was telling people to build this character a while ago, I actually got some questions in my guild why we were using Nebra. It's because Nebra is actually way better than you think. She has a skill 1 that not only reduces magic attack, but also does it to the highest enemy on the field. Now, seeing that the only enemy on the field is the boss, of course, this helps you even more. So with this being said, that is 35% reduced damage here, but where the goodness comes in is, of course, her skill 2. Now, her skill 2 gives you at least that reduced defense level 4 percentage here, which is 70% less defense here. And if you go ahead and combine that with the at least combined amount of at least Lotus's ultimate here, with the incapacitation here, with that 50% damage here, you can immediately knock this boss out and deal a ton of damage pretty quickly with Julius himself. So that immediately makes her really useful for this event. Now, not only that, she does have her ultimate here, which summons a clone, which actually can help her deal more damage here upon the enemy as well. So this is actually kind of nice to have in your arsenal here. So she really proves herself to be useful. Now, of course, if you are going to be using this character, you will be using her SR card. It's the only way that you're going to be able to at least get up here pretty quickly here, as well as removing different little buffs here, and which will help you out quite a lot. So surely do have her card on as well when it comes down to this character. But we'll go ahead and go back into the video here. I'm going to go ahead and show this. Immediately, you guys can tell it does take you to at least tank a little bit here. But you have Mars here to pretty much make sure you don't take a lot of that debuff immunity here. So you have that debuff there. And as you can tell, you use the skill 2 to get down the defense, as I said beforehand. Use the ultimate immediately for that nice incapacitation and slowdown. And then from here on, you can do whatever you like. Now, he ended up doing a taunt here, which does help you out quite a lot, stacking up those defense, or at least those debuffs immediately. And then you have Julius do pretty much the rest of the just thing here. You're slowing them down, you take down mobility, you're getting those nice hits off, and at this point you can pretty much just chunk this guy down. Now for some of you guys who does have at least I would like to say Lotus's skill 2 card, this will come in handy here, because while using the skill 2 card here, you're actually able to deal a little bit more damage than usual here, and this is where the slowdown speed starts to come in handy. Make sure at all costs you're keeping this man targeted on Mars here, while also immediately going ahead and just tagging him up with as many skill 2s and slowdowns as possible. Your main thing is really going to be stacking up those debuffs, and which is what Nebra ended up helping out doing at the very beginning to help you set up with this constant taunt just spam here. So you guys can tell he doesn't really need Nebra anymore for this, but it's just good enough, especially when you're doing the nightmare, to actually save you a lot of trouble here. Now, as you can tell, we got the slowdown. We are now setting up for at least the next one here. Julius finally revives, and from here on, it's immediately nuke on the boss here. So it's fairly easy to knock it out, of course, but you will need some decent gear here, so surely do keep that in mind. But we're going to immediately replay this for a second and scroll up just a little bit. Now, one of the most important things that you guys are going to notice here, as he's going through this boss here, you definitely want to continuously stack as much knockbacks as possible. Don't ever just go ahead and try to say, I'm not going to use my ult at certain times. You need to immediately use this ult, stack it up as much as possible here. And pretty much, as you can tell, she's immediately taking down as much as possible with her even just skill 1, being that she's now reducing a lot of that magic attack as well. So even though she did die fairly on, she made herself very much so useful to make sure the whole team lives, because if you did not put down that magic attack during this little hit here, you're pretty much a goner. So surely do make sure that you do that. It's going to be fairly important for you to do so here, and will pretty much just ruin the at least the whole run if you end up not doing so. All right, now the one other key factor is you want to make sure at all costs your Mars is able to taunt. So if we go ahead and take a look at the Mars here, I would suggest have your skill 1 up, especially a lot if you're going to be doing this nightmare effect here, because his skill 1 gives you a taunt rate up here, and which is already 80%. And each time you end up using this here with those 20% extra, that is a 100% chance to taunt here, and which really will come in handy when taking down this red boss. I suggest you guys to do this immediately, especially if you're really wanting to try and beat Nightmare, of course. If you don't feel like beating Nightmare, there are other ways to go around it, but I would suggest that would be your best bet. Now, of course, Blade, what if I don't have these certain characters here? Don't worry, there are characters that work otherwise than just them, of course. But it is kind of wise to run this team mainly, because if you're doing that here, you're able to keep your, of course, your buff immunity with Nebra. You're able to keep, of course, your Mars here, so he's taking that damage, he's taunting. So I really do suggest, if you're going to be trying Nightmare, do that team only. Now, of course, if you're doing hard, of course, you won't need Nebra there, really. You can go ahead and use someone else, of course, and it could most likely still just work anyone there. If you even wanted to throw in a healer, you could very well throw in Charmy. But if you're going to be doing Nightmare, use Nebra. It's probably going to be the easiest way to run through this. Now, that was just one of the clips here. We still do have at least the green golem to take care of, as well as the blue golem. Now, the green golem and blue golem, a couple of us have those two a little bit down packed, depending on at least what we ended up summoning for here. So for the green golem, of course, he's a purple little orb here, in which, I mean, the blue golem, sorry. He's a purple little orb here that is a debuffer, so surely keep that in mind here. And you will need some green units to take this guy on. So let me go ahead and actually pull up this one for you guys to make sure you guys are able to see this in a second. And which immediately you should see it pop up on the screen in 3, 2, 1, and there it is here. So now this one is a little bit different here. So let me go ahead and actually straighten this all the way out, because this screen was a little bit more blurry and a little bit iffy at the time here. But let's go ahead and redo this. This is the team you're probably going to run here, and that's going to be Raya, Ghosh, Mimosa, and of course and of course Radis or Rades here. At this point I've given up. I'm doing both ones. Don't matter what his name pronunciation is. But and this team is fairly important here. Each of these characters, you will need Raya, you will need Mimosa, and you will need Radis here. Now, the thing is, Mr. Ghost can be somewhat replaceable. Somewhat emphasis on this, okay guys, take it with a grain of salt. Definitely somewhat replaceable, and that's only because we do have a decent bit of other characters. Very well, you could very well use William if you wanted to get that extra attack with the skill 2, but it is very much so wise to at least get Ghost up to get that nice buff as well, because it really does help out quite a lot. If you guys don't know what Ghost's buff does here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull him up real quick because I know I was using him in a video here, and I gotta figure out where he is inside of the box immediately. Here he is. You don't know what his buff pretty much does here. It gives you something called Intense Sunlight, which increases your damage dealt by 5%. Now this can be stackable as well, and if you do have it upgraded, you're able to get yourself some nice more stacks here, and of course if you have it fully upgraded, you're able to get yourself that pin rate. So this character definitely comes in handy, seeing of course if you do got that pin, you're actually able to guarantee yourself some extra damage. And actually I was gonna end up building him off camera, but let's go ahead and start upgrading some of his things here anyways, because this is going to be fairly important. Getting that extra damage as well as getting that nice activation rate for pin is definitely going to be your #1 thing to do. So if you do have him built up, this is your time to shine. And if you wanted to, instead of using his card, because his card is kind of meh bad, I'm not even going to say meh, that's disgracing the word meh, you can go ahead and use Sally's card here, because Sally's card actually gives you a nice little buff here, which is increased attack, which can really help you out, especially if you are doing if you are going to be doing this method here. But let's go ahead and get back to the video. So as we can tell by the video here, he ends up buffing his Raya immediately, making sure he can do this, and then stacking up a little bit on that defense here. Afterwards, he then just takes away the buffs that he does have, or at least tries to get some more buffs here. And at this point, Raya's kind of stacked. So our main thing that we have Radis here, or Rades here for, is just to kind of be that taunter, somewhat like Mars here, because we do know if you do have him LR2'd here or maxed out, he's able to at least taunt certain things as well, which is kind of nice, but you also have a high taunt factor. So at this point, you're able to kind of keep the damage away from your other enemies, or at least your allies here, while mainly letting Mimosa heal everybody. So at this point, he uses ultimate to immediately give everyone this nice increase of pin and things like that that we do very well need here. Afterwards, he used the combo ultimate. Now the combo ultimate here is mainly just to get that nice little taunt on him. As you can tell, when he used that combo ultimate there, he's able to get a nice taunt, keeping all eyes on at least our man Rades here, which is the main thing you definitely want to do. And this allows you to immediately knock out this boss here, or take a huge chunk of health out of here, dealing some nice nuking potential here. And this is something that you kind of want to rinse and repeat. So surely make sure you're getting these ups here. You're able to get your SP back as fast as possible and keeping everyone healed. Even when he took that damage here, Mimosa kind of kept everyone fully stocked, so they were able to take that hit here as well and proceed on. Now, once again, rinse and repeat here. Go ahead and do your skill 2. Get as many debuffs off on him as possible here. It's gonna take some damage, of course, but of course this is perfectly fine. Seeing it wasn't anything too powerful. Was able to heal up just a little bit because the thing is only focused on Rades once again, thanks to the taunt. And then at this point, it's pretty much all she wrote. So it hit Rades here, and then boom, there you go. Raya gets the kill off, and that is the best way to clear this here. Now, whoops, I accidentally pressed the stop recording button. You know what? I'm not taking that out the video. That's staying in there. But as you can tell, guys, when it came down to that final hit, you do have to remember that you do need some decent gear for this. This is not something that you'll be doing with like a free-to-play. Like, you can do it as a free-to-play, but you need to have your gear in order, because this on Nightmare definitely does a lot more damage here. And just like the last team, of course, if you don't have Ghost build, you can go ahead and use William, of course, or like instead of having a different buffer build, you can use William, and it very well would work out here. So definitely don't let just, oh, I don't have Ghost, kind of hold you back here. But one of the few things that you must notice is definitely gear. Gear is going to be your best friend while doing Nightmare here, and it's definitely going to be advised for you to at least have in order. Now, recently I've been trying to get my gear up pretty decent. I'm trying to gear up my Raya currently here, but let's just say gear dungeons have not been too nice to me. But we're trying to get up our man Raya here, trying to make sure he looks a little bit better. Make sure he has the best attack that you can possibly give him, seeing he is going to be your nuker. Definitely try and make sure your gear is looking really good in doing so, and making sure you can actually tank a decent bit of those hits, because that thing does not hit low at all. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could very well try to use something different, but once again, I'm going to suggest that you probably don't do that unless you feel like dying. Then that's on you there. Now, once again, good replace for a Ghost is Williams, so let that sink in. But all right, we're gonna talk about the last boss, and if you guys have made it this far, please do say hashtag guild boss in the chat, the comments. I'm thinking I'm streaming right now. Say it in the comment section there. Really does bring a smile to my face when I see these people actually put down the little hashtags and stuff like that, seeing that you guys are actually listening and, you know, actually enjoying the content I'm releasing here. But we're going to be talking about the final boss here, which is going to be the green one here. Now, this boss is mean. Okay, this boss, you need to have some top-notch units kind of upped here. You do have Noelle out and about, so it does make things a little bit easier, but this boss is not the nicest of the bunch here. Now, something that you guys could be running when it does come down to this boss is you could be running yourself with Asta, you could be running with Noelle. It does help out to have them both built for this specifically, but at least Asta and Noelle are definitely mandatory units that you could possibly be using for this. So, all right, one of the few things is Asta and Noelle, you're going to need them for this team, of course. You could use very well Finral, you can use Charlotte. Those are all characters that are kind of must-use characters here, but you guys will get what I mean once I show you guys the clip. So let's go ahead and actually pull up the clip for you guys to pretty much have a better look at what we're supposed to be doing for this here. But my behind did not have this ready, so bear with me for a quick second. Just immediately pull this up here. But there we go. I think that's good. So all right, so now the screen's a little bit bigger, way bigger, because this one he ended up sending me on his BlueStacks here. But if we go ahead and take a look from the start here, you can tell that he's using Rades, he's using himself Asta, he is using himself Mimosa, and at least Charlotte, them all together. Now this is more of the safer team because this guy, as I did say, packs a punch. If you're using Asta, which is the most, I wouldn't say the better one for this, because Noelle is really good. She does have that defensive part of her, but she doesn't have that straight up outright single target damage here. Now you could still use Noelle and Asta together. That'll help you out a lot with, of course, Charlotte and Finral. It does work. It is really good. But remember, Finral's a squishy, Noelle's a squishy, Asta's a squishy, so you guys kind of see what I'm getting with. It does help you clear a little bit faster, but it is kind of squishy. Now with the team that he's running, he's using Rades, Mimosa, Charlotte, and Asta, which is absolutely amazing. Rades to get the taunt off, as well as some barrier. Mimosa to keep everyone kind of sustained on health as well, and reduce some of that damage if you do have her duped. And then Charlotte to take down, of course, defenses here and get that nice damage off. And then Asta to do the crazy single target DPS. All right, excuse me. And then let's go ahead and get into the video. So if we go ahead and look at the video here and check out what's happening immediately here, we do have the actual crazy damage. But as you can tell, even with those little buffs and like the downs, he has 3 literal takedowns on defense right now. Even with that being stated here, you're still not doing a ton of damage. So you want to make sure you have some good, at least damaging gear on. You want to make sure your gear on that is actually good to take a hit, because he hits hard. Boy, oh boy, he hits hard. That was what he did to a defender. You can tell there very well that if that was a attacker, there would be some problems. Now, what you would end up going ahead and doing with this, you want to go ahead and get as much damage as possible off. Make sure you're always staying pretty much statted up to keep a lot of that damage away from you. He ends up popping off the ult for at least the defense buff as well here. But you will notice that when fighting these bosses here, they sometimes will not let you get certain effects on, which is why the barrier didn't appear earlier. Now, as you can see, this is your main deal. You have to tank a lot of this damage here, get rid of that shield off of him at all times here, and just pretty much chip him away. Now, a good way of doing this, of course, since he does have that barrier, use the combo attack to strip a barrier away here, while also getting you an Asta stack for at least a single target hit. And then at this point, you just got to continuously chip him down. Now, Asta's doing this thing as usual. He's trying to stack as many buffs as possible before he uses that ultimate, because it's going to need to hit hard in order to get rid of this guy in time. Once again, you get the defense down immediately. He's going ahead and buffing just to make sure everything goes well. And then as everyone's already healed here, he lets Asta go at it. Now, at this point, you're pretty much all good here. Asta gets the ultimate and does some killer damage immediately, knocking this guy down. And this is something you guys are just going to have to continuously do. Now, this team, as you can tell, it may take a little bit longer than the other team that I was talking about here, but it definitely is probably your safest bet here. So surely do try to give this one out, or at least give this one a try here. This is definitely the team I would suggest go for. As I did say, some substitutions, instead of just using Mimosa and Radis here or Rades, you can go ahead and use Fenril. You can go ahead and use a couple other characters such as Noelle, and that very well will do just as good. But make sure Asta's there to take off that barrier. But as you can tell, he beat it on Nightmare immediately here, making his life a lot more easier. But alright, so taking a look back at the account, make sure you guys have those characters built. It really does help you out a lot when taking these guys down here. And be sure you know what exactly the boss is going to be doing here. Because certain little stances, as well as certain little phases here, when it comes down to these bosses, are going to be really important to pay attention to. These bosses can immediately mess you up, seeing they do have immunity status and things like this here that you guys can see. It is not going to be easy to take them out on Nightmare. But with the at least knowledge that now you have with this video here, you're going to be able to take on hard and Nightmare as much as possible, as long as you have your units pretty prepared here. But without further ado, those are the tips and tricks when it does come down to this, as well as the teams, of course. You guys let me know down below how you guys are doing with this here. Hopefully this video is actually very helpful. Once again, major shout out to our man Ali. If you're inside the Discord, hit that man with an @ and say thank you. He really is the freaking man for doing this with me. And till next time, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to smash that like button with your forehead. Peace out.